You see. And it's only true when you get to your job interview on time, without mud all over you. So experimental thinking, this is the way he talks about epistemology. He repudiates certainty for practical purposes. You see. He repudiates spectator empiricism. John Locke, tabula rasa, passively receiving ideas. Nonsense. He repudiates any subject-object dualism, you know, where the mind is out here gaining mental representations of what's out there. No, he repudiates all of that. Because they all divorce thought from action, theory from practice. It is the utility of an idea that matters. Truth is not some objective thing fixed for all time, independent of the observer. Truth is simply the utility, the workability of an idea. Okay, so that's the application to logic epistemology. Clear enough? See why he's going that way? Philosophy of mind, well, little more to be said after the note about functionalist psychology. Plainly, he is rejecting any substance theory of mind or soul. He has no, at least he sees no mind-body problem if mind is not a separate entity. All he's prepared to talk about in relationship to philosophy of mind is various what we call mental functions. Mental is an adjective. That is to say, certain biological functions that involve consciousness is all that the word mental is referring to. Value theory. Here he has a number of important writings. He has a fairly early book called The Theory of Valuation, and then another called Human Nature and Conduct. And here he regards values simply as ideas. Values are ideas. In what sense? Well, values are ideal outcomes. Ideal outcomes that emerge in problem situations. That is to say, you don't value avoiding that farm wagon until the situation arises. Then you need, biologically you need to avoid it. And out of the biological need is the valuing. Dewey is not interested in value in the sense of what is intrinsically and eternally valuable. He's only interested in value in the sense of what is actively valued. Values are what is valued. And you value what you value in problem situations. You don't realize it otherwise. In other words, values are ideas which give rise to other ideas about resolving the problem situation. There are no intrinsically good ends. No intrinsically good ends. You remember how Aristotle defined the good as intrinsically good. A supreme good embracing all other goods, intrinsically good, not good for the sake of something else. Well, what Dewey wants to insist on is a means-end continuum. That is to say, the end, the ideal, involves in itself the means to the end. But when that end is achieved, remember, it becomes the thesis for a new antithesis. So that end itself is a means simply to further ends. There is nothing that is just an end, intrinsically end, fixed end. When you get there, you got there, that's it, period. There's never a period. It's all process. So there are no moral absolutes. There is no supreme good. Values emerge with unsatisfied needs. Values are instruments for survival. Values are not, in some intrinsic sense, moral goods. They're non-moral goods. Survival is a non-moral thing, you see. And yet it becomes loaded with value in certain problem situations. Ethics, then, has to do with how to solve problems and achieve what we desire. How to solve problems and achieve what we desire. This is an instrumentalist ethic. He calls it that. Instrumentalism in ethics. And Dewey's work on ethics was one of the major factors that fed into the development 2 or 3 decades ago of situation ethics, which was popularized in a book by that title written by Joseph Fletcher, unrelated to another Fletcher of fame around here. Joseph Fletcher at Harvard. Book on situation ethics, maintained that, yes, every moral situation has to be addressed individually. There are no general moral rules. No fixed guidelines, universal moral principles. Each situation has to be resolved in a way that is satisfying to the persons involved. Now, he added a few more ingredients, but that's the pragmatic ingredient in it. And it's very plainly Dewey's thing with a few existential notes involved. So his value theory at that point. Education. Yeah, in education, you'd want to look at his book, Democracy and Education. Democracy and Education. He sees the function of education as learning to live. Learning to live. That is to say, education to provide you with the necessary instrumentalities for problem solving. For problem solving. Learning is not so that you have things to contemplate all your life. Reading Plato, Milton, whatever. Learning is not an attempt to instill fixed values, the heritage of values from the past, the ages. No, that's not the value of learning. That's classical education. Education is rather a preparation for successful adjustment to environment, problem-oriented, student-oriented, rather than discipline-oriented or historically oriented or just intellectually oriented. Okay. I think in American education we've, since Dewey, developed sort of a combination of classical traditions and his emphasis on learning that provides life skills. And for reasons, I think, that our view of things has tended to incorporate some of Dewey's concerns without going the whole hog. You see, we still have fixed points of reference. Application to religion. And here the important book of his is called Common Faith. Common faith. If there are no fixed truths or values, then religion isn't simply an attempt to transmit certain truths and values. What is it? It's not about static ideals. Religion is, again, a tool for life adjustment. The same theme run all the way through. He is not so much interested in a religion or different religions as in the adjective religious, which refers to a quality, an attitude to life. A religious attitude is one of loyalty to the ideals of the community. Loyalty to the ideals of the community. Now, why that? Well, two reasons. One is the etymology of the word religion, which means to re-tie, or if you like, reunite. And so religion has a function of reuniting individuals within a community by virtue of loyalty to certain intangible ideals of a conventional or traditional sort. Not fixed and eternal. In other words, religion is important because of its instrumentality. Not because it's true, but because of its instrumentality.